as you turn your attention toward nature, will you gaze with me upon a little bird held in your hands? Observe how its heart is swiftly beating. Then release him and let him go. Watch how he travels into the sky, glad at last to try his fledgling wings, pleased that he is free and not certain of anything except the power to buoy himself upward. You are delighted that you have let him go. So will you also let the sole expression of yourself go. So will you release yourselves from the turmoil of the outer condition which surrounds you, and gaze with me upon the great solar fires that exist in the forces of nature, that also exist within you. For they consist of the patterns of cosmic grace for the unfoldment of the being of man. And what is man, that thou art mindful of him, but a manifestation of God? But he has not thought of himself in this way, but rather as a separate manifestation. Yet in reality, each of you are beautifully connected with God and are an extension of himself in form. Either knowing or unknowing his grace, you move in the field of consciousness, first from this idea and then to that idea, flitting hither and yon, but never understanding the great reality that is to be found centered within yourself. A position of equipoise, a position of the calmness of knowing and the firmness of reality. Outer conditions may change, but the inward condition never changes, for it is a manifestation of the constancy of God, which you ought to know and to understand, that the manifestation of his purity may have a breathing, living reality of freedom to each of you. Freedom to wear the garments of your real self and to express it without fear as to what man may think. For the opinions of men ought not to mar the opinions of God. They ought to complement them, but they sometimes do not. And these are the facts of life, which should be understood quite simply by humanity. That the grace that is eternal might shine into every heart and create a climate, a condition, a response to the voice of God, the tenderness of his thought of man. And the thought of God is everywhere manifest, but sometimes seemingly nowhere apparent, because the attention of man is gone from it. And the attention of man is the requirement for the manifestation of the great God ideals. That all may share in these ideals is our hope. And as we come to you today, it is with a mind that the world is not in an easy state, but one of mass confusion, because it has created conditions that are warranted by the activities of man, but are never warranted by the activities of God. His peace would long ago have become a beautiful garment for the world, but the world has not been actually interested in the manifestation of the garment of God. They have been interested in perhaps touching the hem of the garment of God. They have been interested in physical healing. They have been interested in various phases of cosmic existence, but usually not in every phase, because the universal consciousness is sadly lacking in manifestation to mortal men. They ought then to respond to the vibration of our peace, and if not to the vibration of our peace, then to the vibration of the high-sounding manifestation that comes to them from time to time from other ascended beings. A response should be generated in the soul by men, not just according to the vicissitudes of human nature, but according to the divine nature that is within themselves. Do you see? We then promulgate a pattern for men that is concise, that is related to the process whereby man can quite easily understand that God expresses a concern for him, and that this concern radiates out into the world of form, showing itself in various fashions, but not of necessity succeeding in the little game of attracting mankind's attention, because he is so busy, engaged in a host of pursuits. The first thing that we must accomplish then is to secure his attention. Sometimes, born out of sheer frustration, the karmic lords have said to one another, "Let us now then take our attention and place it upon the law of karma. Let karma bring to the world exactly what they have sent out." At other times, the law has been most tempered in its relationship with humanity, and we have abated the law, caused conditions that were imminent to restrain themselves and not manifest because of the prayers of so many for so many. Do you understand, however, that in a true relationship, the prayers for the masses are by the few, and therefore we have heeded but the few, and we have restrained the action again and again of world karma and the patterns of karma, preventing earthquakes, floods, fires, diseases, and disasters from becoming a part of the world scene, because of our great love for man, that we could shed abroad in the world community the opportunity for peace and the pursuit of happiness. Again and again, individuals have taken no advantage whatsoever of our interlude, and therefore the karmic lords have sometimes said, "Let us allow the great anvil of karma to be struck. Let there ring out an action whereby humanity may feel the lash of that which they have sent out to one another." We do not, in most of these cases, directly interfere. We simply cease to interfere. And by the cessation of our action, we produce a manifestation that is perfectly natural in the world order, for humanity have again and again sent out these patterns, and the same patterns return to them which they have sent out. And while they do not bring refreshment to humanity, they do wake up a certain segment of the population who are concerned with themselves and read the handwriting we have written upon the wall. These various approaches we have made to humanity from time to time are calculated to elicit the very best response from man, because we are truly concerned. But when the great book of the law is ignored, when men pay all of their attention to those outer world musicians who bring forth out of the astral realm those vibratory qualities which are calculated to spread abroad discord in the consciousness, discord in the soul, and ultimately discord through the whole being of man, we feel certainly that we are justified in releasing upon man the fruit of his own sowing. Now today, mankind are faced with a frightful crisis in the Far East, far greater than they realize at this moment in time, and I speak of the average man. For the turmoil is not just born out of the sea of one man's emotions or feeling, but is the foment of a world discontent. Further, it is a destructive force generated by man and turned against him. It is not then just a matter of gathering various groups together and saying, we are for peace and they are for war. It is not that easy to define. Let all understand that in all men is the great love for peace. Yet, lurking somewhere deep within their consciousness is the centuries-old struggle for violence that has become so much a part of mankind in this modern world, in depth, manifesting unexpectedly and in unexpected places. The current rash of airplane problems has further complicated the whole structure for humanity, and today there is a certain quality of world nervousness, you may call it jitters if you will, that humanity are experiencing. It is a troubled condition, and we would pour oil upon the troubled waters. Yet what is really needed is a greater understanding on the part of humanity of the depth of our love, of the depth of our reality. But how shall we bring this about? It is not enough simply to have desire on our part, to be of assistance. We must serve and work through many among mankind. We must alert them to the conditions of the world when somehow or other there is a tendency for them to lull themselves to sleep, to say all things continue as from the first. Life has gone on yesterday, it is going on now, it will go on tomorrow. But there is no promise that can be given to the individual for a continuation of his existence according to a certain pattern. Life is full of changes, and the world experiences in every age a large number of them. What is important is to develop the condition of personal response to these changes, being unmoved by outer conditions, but recognizing that one can and should be moved by the inner condition of their own being. Then humanity can at last begin to climb the stairways to attainment. And as he attains step by step, his virtues will come forth. Naturally, they will be challenged by the residual substance, the magnetism of his own world, the accumulation of the darkness in himself. But we are concerned with the eliminating of this darkness from the most hidden recesses of the soul, so-called, or the soul personality, better called. Let us then make clear to all that the struggle for divine existence is not easy, yet there is no other way that can actually come to humanity. I recall full well when I sat under the great stupa in India and preached my first sermon. Some of you were there. But will you understand with me that many were not? And yet, the love that went forth was the love of discovery. It was the grand adventure. It was a participatory revelation, an experience in cosmic law that showed humanity the love of God as the wisdom of God. And today, many years hence, we come unto humanity and seek to spread abroad the canopy of our regenerative effort for them. Today the little children are most of all the victims of mankind's depredations, for they do not realize the state of the world or the conditions in their generation, and when they attain to it, they are often set upon by outer conditions, and adults themselves have not made it easier for the little children to grow up to mature in a comfortable world or environment where they can be taught the principles of Christ regeneration. This is why Jesus said it were better for humanity if a millstone were hung about their neck. And so the millstone of karma will eventually fall about the neck of humanity if they do not watch it, if they are not more careful, if they do not experience the reality of divine peace and divine love, not simply as a worded expression, but as the reality of the soul's growth and expansion. For when the soul begins to expand, it is at first to humanity somewhat a condition of the pressures of the hand, for they are restrained by outer conditions, even as the little bird was. They cannot fly free. They do not have the understanding just how they should enter peace, and they seem to be troubled about many conditions. But our love and the love of God is real, and the ascended master consciousness, as you have called it, is the reality and joy of every man who would experience it for himself. These conditions are truly the development of the invisible world. When they come into the consciousness of humanity, they flood man with delight when properly understood. But first he must have faith, as you have been told. For faith is truly the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen as yet. You then, by the generation of greater faith, will have a greater expression of the tender realities of God, until at last you will see that there is a need for you to enter into a greater degree to the affairs of humanity, to speak out many cases amongst men concerning the problems of the world. In a way, in a very real way, this is your world. This is a place where the Lord lay, where he walked the sorrowful way, where many of us, with or without staff in hand, have gone forth in hope. We have gathered the dust of many roads. We have walked many places upon the planet and suffered many experiences and known many joys. Will you then enter into the realization that the consciousness of God and of the ascended masters is a subtle one? Will you recognize the basis for the subtle world? Will you realize that the subtleties of life are truly the real qualities you must seek to embody? For they are not always readily apparent. They do not come upon the surface, but are to be found beneath the waves of life experiences, where you can better understand why certain conditions manifest. I know that you are often puzzled about outer conditions, and perhaps it is well that you are puzzled, for then you will begin to seek the answers. The answers lie not within some great book, but within the book of life, which is your own self. There they can be brought forth and manifest all the qualities of solution to the world problems. They can bring forth an application that in this day and age will bear the fruit of an ageless peace. And then humanity will no longer feel the sense of struggle, but they will fly free at last into the beauty of the air, into the beauty of the sunlight, into the beauty of the divine sense. Will you recognize with me that I am a being of love, that I have come also with a fountain of wisdom in my heart, that this wisdom can be garnered by each soul and realized as most precious to his development, but it requires application. And therefore I have been asked by the karmic lords to speak unto you today about the application of the law. For so many are interested in hearing the law expressed without an understanding of its application in their own lives. Will you, recognizing this great privilege, bear with me the fruit of doing and becoming? For doing is becoming. To sit idly by and watch conditions mature is not the way. Others may mature, but the self-development of each one occurs naturally through unfoldment, and you must begin if you are to end the great battle of life, at last making your ascension in the light, without forgetting to understand that others also need assistance. They are at various levels of consciousness. They do not always understand the way of peace and the way of freedom. They do not know that out of peace comes freedom. Freedom to express, freedom to be delight, freedom to know that God is near. And when he is near, the divine sense makes him nearer. For it is not so much that he is not near at all times, as it is that some do not hear it. They do not see it, they do not feel it, they do not know it. And so I say, you must feel and hear and know and open the divine ear and regulate the concept of cosmic grace. You are the arbiter of your own destiny, and out of the fruit of that will come the beauty of peace to you. And as you exhibit it, so will the world exhibit it. So will all men come to know it. So will new systems be developed of thought and feeling, and the correct habits growing, expanding, manifesting at an early age will be quite natural at a later age, because they have been early in their expression. Yet today is the time to start. You need not wait until another embodiment. You need not wait until another age. Understand that today is the day to start. Understand that today is the day of your salvation. Today is the fruit of our peace and our benignity. May I share with you my love in greater depth by expanding the force field of my peace. May I cause it to expand and reach out into the world. May I cause it to touch you one by one. And may it bring delight to your eyes and joy to your heart. And may the cup of your being overflow, because others need to be inundated, because you require saturation. There is so much turmoil, and peace is ever within. Yet turmoil also may hold a certain pattern of good unto humanity, if it will awaken them to the realization that they have a need for our peace, that peace is within, that peace is beauty, that peace is reality, that peace is joy, that peace is God, that peace is opportunity. The door is still open. Will you come through? Will you come through? Will you enter into the joy of thy Lord? Our service is to help develop it. Our service is to help generate it. Your service is just the same, but you do not realize it sometimes. You can generate peace. You can generate love. You can generate the qualities that are of God in the world. You can be a center of benign influence. Above all, the great masters who are with me want you to know the meaning of what you can do. For you too should enter in to a joy just like we have, a consciousness just like ours, a spirit of perfect love, perfect peace, perfect understanding. And as I go back to Shambhala, as I return to the fold of light and truth upon the planetary body, let there lodge in your heart some demonstration of our reality, some circlet of identity, some comfort, so that our coming has not been in vain. Let the fruit of endeavor break forth with shining in your eyes and hearts. Let that endeavor be God, for he loves you very much. Like the resounding of a giant bell in consciousness do I come, that the planet may feel a spirit of uplift and be raised above the thought of the mass consciousness. Yes, the whole planet, some knowingly and some unknowingly. I bring then a cup of God delight, the refreshment and craving of the soul, long surfeited in a long night of senseless and useless struggle, yet ours is not a matter of condemnation, but a matter of assistance, whereby the realities of the Spirit are born afresh in the heart that has hungered and thirsted after righteousness, that he may be filled, that she may be filled, that all may be filled, is our prayer. And it is a prayer, beloved ones, of earnest effort, made on behalf of all humanity, for our measure, our gauge of the human panorama is not as men see it in small segments, but is a larger adventure than most of you have become ambitious enough to bite off as a piece of reality, a fragment of God delight. The cultivation of the realization of the feeling of millions of hearts is not common to all. But those of us who have spent our lives and life in a state first of becoming master of ourselves, and later, mind you, becoming the arbiter of the destiny of man, are determined to assist him in his present plight wherever we can, and to dust off, as it were, this entire planet of the astral dust, the psychic dust, and the delusions that have kept humanity bound for so long. It is most unfortunate, beloved hearts of light, that some doubt our existence. Perhaps they also doubt the existence of themselves. And then again, they have many other doubts that seem to require reinforcing. Let them choose whatever they will, for they do have the quality of freedom here. This we have seen to because it is a matter of cosmic law. Yet we came here not with cynicism concerning the manifestation of humanity, but with a full realization that humanity are literally drenched with astral substance, with a psychic substance of human criticism, for example, that has actually extended itself, because it becomes a vehicle whereby astral expressions themselves are critical of the manifestation of human life. People are critical of one another, when in reality they can most simply drink in the radiance of the Christ and become filled with the east wind of becoming. For out of the east there comes a beautiful wind, the wind of the Spirit, and it creates patterns in the mind and heart of men that are themselves complete as eye pictures of that which shall be, yet are latent images, not always apparent readily in the soul of men at the time of planting, but at a later time they shall manifest, and men will seize upon them and say, they are my own. We do not care. For what we are concerned with is humanity, and our planting is for all. Yet all do not choose to accept our planting or the planning of the divine for and on behalf of mankind. Shall we lament? Beloved ones, of what value is lamentation? We shall simply as some of you have said, allow them to stew in their own juice. For they have created out of light darkness, and that which should be light within themselves is truly darkness, and truly great darkness. For it is the darkness of imagination. It is the confusion of the natural mind. The spirit is free of confusion and filled with that benign attitude that always trembles as it approaches the brink of discovery. And in the trembling of the cup of life, we find a sense of high adventure and longing. But when the moment of expectancy becomes the moment of reality, as you have said, the moment of truth, at that specific moment, all is changed into love and delight. And people do not understand that the vibratory quality of their action is governed by themselves. In engineering, you have what is known as a governor. And throughout life, you have a manifestation of that quality of governing yourself. That quality of governing conditions, of manifesting a power over matter. And you do not realize, of course, that this is also a manifestation of a spiritual quality. We are not concerned, then, with the opposition to our speaking to you. We come from our planetary home upon Hesper, and the delight of his law is in our mind. And we come here as strangers and pilgrims in your midst. Some of you welcome us with great delight. Some of you are glad that we have descended into the planetary atmosphere. Others create the opposition, knowing not what they do. And for them we say, Father, forgive them. They are concerned with finite triviality. Let it be so. We are concerned with the Spirit. And men must understand the solemnity of this occasion as one whereby they are God-taught to resist the forces of darkness. And naturally people are confused by it. For first of all, we hear the word that clearly speaks, saying, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. And then again, resist not evil. Humanity does not understand the nature of these occasions. There is a time when men should resist evil because God within them chooses to act and to create the reality of his good in the consciousness. Then again, there is a time when they should not, in dignity, lower their head to that which is less than the perfection and beauty of our presence. We have thought upon our manner of coming to you this evening, and we have said, oh yes, we can come with great power. We can, if we wish, give you that staccato manifestation that sometimes is a disturbing condition to the outer self. And we have said, we will come to you with quietude and with cosmic majesty. And we will come to you with a new sense of the greatness of Almighty God. We will not choose to dramatize our position this evening, as we have become accustomed to do in coming into the atmosphere of earth as a shattering experience so necessary to man. For when we shatter the human matrices, we want you to thoroughly understand that the moment we shatter those matrices, then God appears, because he is already there. Tonight, we will not over-dramatize the experiences, for some have said in their heart they are over-dramatizing. And so we will do exactly tonight as you have dictated. We will speak to you in quietness, in a relative quietness, for we understand the speaking of the heart. But we want you to understand why it is that some of the masters choose on various occasions to speak to humanity in a staccato manner, in what you may term almost a strident manner, that the human matrices may themselves be shattered. This is necessary because there is a hard shard around mankind, an accumulation of outer substance, of ideas, of thoughts, of feelings. Now, in their natural state, these are not so terrible. In fact, they are very ordinary. They are almost like ripe apples or cherries. They fall from every tree. And, in fact, they bring many a tree down because of their weight. But we are not concerned with that. We are concerned instead with the description of how we strip away the feelings humanity has that actually prevent the manifestation of the great blazing reality of selfhood. Selfhood is a vital experience. It is an experience that comes to those who seek for it. It is not, although it is everywhere, readily obtained by man. It is necessary that man shall seek for it, that he shall hunger for it, that he shall strive for it, that he shall enter into it and become all of that. You have called me the Lord of the world. I want no such title for myself, nor do any of the ascended masters choose to create these titles. They are meaningless to us. What we are concerned with is what we call or term the fruit of endeavor. It is the reality of bringing to God many souls, of making those souls to know the meaning of true love, of enhancing the quality of the inner thoughts and feelings of men, of creating a new awareness of the Christ consciousness, of stimulating the fashion of the world to come in those who are fully aware of that which is the present age. They read about it in their newspapers. They hear about it on their radios. They see it and hear it on the screens of their televisions. And none of that which they see or hear or read is particularly stimulating to the soul. In fact, it does not even at the present time stimulate humanity to become a better people. Although we will admit that in some few cases, individuals horrified by the various reporting agencies of life have actually turned to the light because of the darkness of the world. But this may become a temporary action, or of course in some cases, if they come close enough to the great magnet, it may become a dazzling reality which they seek. Now we are concerned with the development of the soul evolution, of the spirit of reality that is in the heart. We know the purposes of having these classes, to bring you together and to bring forth to you a realization of our awareness. For there are truly many factions of the spirit that manifest upon the planetary body. Some of these are almost unwilling workers of the great light. I speak of those who are in the outer world that we contact in dreams or visions, or by the vibratory action of our love, which may not clearly be defined to them. They are of the Spirit also. Jesus referred to them as other sheep I have which are not of this fold, and the application of his remark may indeed be transferred to various ideas. We are speaking of one of the aspects of this manifestation. Let us then recognize that the other sheep which are not of this fold are many in the world who at present may be termed as unawakened. They are also, in the eyes of God, lambs without blemish, because their souls are without blemish. They may manifest qualities that some of you may feel certainly do not fit the action of an ascended master student, of a student of the light. Well, precious hearts of light, tomorrow may be different, and they may suddenly choose to turn to the light and embrace it. And when they do, they will be one of you, or they will be allied with us in some other endeavor or realm of thought and feeling. We are not then overly concerned with just what action humanity may take, because we know that ultimately the soul will reach a state where it will continually come toward the light, point by point, until at last its feet will be upon the same pathway you are upon one day. Of course it would be better if they would accept our teachings and our endeavors now. Of course they would make greater advancement. Of course they would be wiser, and they would eliminate many phases of their karmic experience. And because they would eliminate many phases of their karmic experience, they would shorten the days that actually stand between them and divine reality. This can be done. Let humanity who are here understand this, and let the thought be conveyed to the world in bell-like tones. Let it resound. Let it ring out. Let it be heard by men. God is willing to shorten the times of man's travail. He is willing to awaken the consciousness of humanity until at last humanity recognizes that it is a very real part of Him and of His blessed bliss. Some have thought on certain manners of my appearing of this evening. They have conceived that I would come and do certain things. Well, precious ones, it is my wish to do certain things, but I do not have to make an outer display in order to create. For inwardly, I have the power, as you also have, when you understand it, to create a new life for you all. And you have the same power to create it for yourselves. I would accelerate your evolution if you will permit me. And so, right while I am speaking to you, if you will accept in your heart that I am, and the reality of yourself, I can safely promise you that a certain quickening action will take place within you. This quickening action will come about because you have requested it. And therefore tonight, will you, in the quietude of your own mind and heart, in your own feeling world, simply express to me a desire to have my assistance, and I will give it. And the assistance that I will give will make you a better person than you have ever been before. Yes, almost without effort, the simple effort of accepting my words. Do you understand that this is the promise of an ascended being to those who will take it literally, to those who will do it, to those who will take action, to those who will say, yes, beloved Sanat Kumara, it is my wish to become a better person, and therefore I ask you to help me, or just simply help me, Sanat Kumara, and I will do so, and I will do it tonight, for the great cosmic law has allowed me to do it. It has permitted me to accelerate your evolutionary pattern. But some do not understand that to actually have this opportunity and to deny yourself this opportunity will also establish a certain pattern which I deeply regret. Therefore, I do not wish to speak about it. For I would like to say to you that I am ready to assist you because I love you. And my love is not restricted to one of you and ignores another. It is a universal love that flows out into the world. And therefore, whosoever shall read this or hear this will have the same privilege. And I will not place a time limit upon it at all. I will make it available to humanity because humanity are developing the quality of faith. And the quality of faith is a transcendent quality. It can transform the lives of all who will pay heed to it. Now, if humanity choose to ignore it, that is something else. They have their own mind. God Himself has spoken through many prophets and teachers throughout the centuries. Many who have heeded these various prophets and teachers have also gained greatly in the fruit that is called soul fruit by those who know. They have also had an open door in their understanding that no man can shut. After all, beloved hearts of light, is it not necessary to open your own heart's door in order to have the great realization that we want to bring to you? Then do it. Open up your heart's door to God. I do not say even that it is necessary to place your attention upon my outer self, even though it is ascending and is really an inner self. You may ignore me if you will, and simply call to God, and I will still answer the call, or God will answer it if you will, for I have a right to bind him. And when you understand the great law just a little bit better than you now do, many of you will understand that you too can bind the Lord of the universe to do your bidding. And so in a way you become more miraculous than Aladdin. But do you sense the great responsibility involved in all of this? For you could, perchance, actually invoke the light on behalf of millions of people. Or you could invoke the light on behalf of those who are not yet born in physical form, but are standing waiting to come at the portals of birth. Do you see how there are endless possibilities before humanity to do good? Some individuals feel that their good is limited to this phase of time. We seek to make men to understand that they are not limited, that they are able to reach forward in time and create and imagine those great things of which Jesus spake. He said, "Greater things shall ye do, because I go unto my Father." Do you think, perchance, that at that blessed moment he was fooling the people or in some way deceiving them? Did he speak truth, or was it simply spoken into the air as a passing fancy of his head? I think otherwise, for I know that it was a delightful manifestation of the law of love. He was trying to assist humanity in the future, and therefore loving men today. He said of them that they would do greater things than the apostles did in that day. I want you to understand that you have the right, spiritually, to actually speak the word on behalf of generations yet unborn, and it will be done. Will you then ignore the present generation? Will you ignore those hearts of light that are already here? Will you ignore the searching of the human soul to find more of God? Do you understand that right while I am talking to you, there is an action taking place of great assistance to your outer selves and to your inner selves that you may not even realize, but that is functioning now to those who have asked, so that certain changes will take place in your consciousness in the future, are already manifesting, and are a great part of the cosmic adventure of that life which is one. Now, how do we do this? How do we weld together the many lives of each individual and then make him an integrated or whole person? We do it by spiritual alchemy. We do it by the chemistry of God, by the realization that there is power yet in the spoken word to do those greater things. How can man then suppose that God was limiting creation when in the beginning he said the word went forth? Was the word that he then spoke not potent to humanity? Let me make clear to you that that word is still active in the world and is still active to create a newness of life in yourselves. It is active and functional even in realms of time yet unborn. You are waiting for the manifestation of the great sand in the hourglass. Let me tell you, the potential is here. Let me explain to humanity that all of the darkness that now manifests in the world is really a chimera. It is a shadow. It is a manifestation of darkness. It is a trembling in the cup. It is not completion or life as it was intended to be, but it is an imperfect manifestation. Now then, we speak of the things of the Spirit that will manifest in time to come. If they will manifest in time to come as potential, then someone now living must exhibit control of their divine faculties, and that living person must simply become a majority of one with God. Through the great power of the Spirit, they are able now to invoke for the coming age a greater radiance than is now manifest. Will you do this for humanity? May I pause in my speech for a moment and ask you to join together in a call unto God, to me, to the ascended host, to your great God self? A rose known by any other name smells just as sweet. Will you make the call for humanity not yet upon the earth that will one day manifest, that they may be given a richness of inheritance? If you will, I believe that it will bear fruit in the eternal now. I pause. It is done. When the Magi came out of the east and said, "We have seen his star," it was a moment of transcending rejoicing for humanity. And now the world is at the crossroads, for the conflicts in the Middle East and elsewhere upon the planetary body are becoming an anathema to humanity. And well might the masses tire of it. For back in the Napoleonic era, we find that humanity and mass were putting one another to death and destruction. Now throughout the world, turmoil still goes on. This unrest is a condition of human violence. It is not a condition of spiritual reality, of a whole man. They in the kingdom of God are not interested in doing harm to one another, but in bearing the fruit of the Spirit, as love, joy, and peace, and the development of a divine culture. And now I tell you, the time has come when it is my desire to fashion anew in the consciousness of men the culture of the new age. Therefore, for the next 24 months, we are going to release to those who are receptive to it the elements of a greater culture, a greater awareness, a greater strength, a greater reality, a greater passion and love of one another. Those who will not choose to receive it, let them go, for they will become a part of the dark, and eventually they will cease to be unless they embrace the kingdom of God and the kingdom of love. In the beginning, we had a term amongst ourselves, which I would like you to know about. And this is rather amusing, I think, to some among humanity today, for we referred to the kingdom of heaven as the flower kingdom. Humanity do not understand this, but in reality, it was the blossoming forth of the fruit of a new age. And the fruit of a new age is always brought about in the flower kingdom. The question before humanity is, must they wait until they have passed into some other world before they begin the creation of it? I think not. And therefore humanity should understand quite naturally that they possessing this power are expected to use it. When they use it properly for the edification of humanity, they must also include themselves, for they are a key part in it. Let individuals then understand that they themselves are expected to manifest new qualities of the Spirit and to forsake the old conditions. This means that there must be the renaissance of a spiritual culture which we term the culture of the New Age, or the culture of the Great White Brotherhood, or the culture of the hastening ones. We want humanity to understand that there must be embodied upon this earth a quality that will start the ball rolling, as you have called it. Humanity are interested in a certain type of progress, and we are interested in another. The progress we are interested in is the development of the deficiencies in the human nature, and these have to do with the understanding of man's id, or human ego. We want you then to understand that man must understand that he is of the divine nature, a partaker or a communicant of that. If he will understand this, he will be creating a new heaven upon earth. And this is the desire of the cosmic ones, who desire to create also the image of the hastening one and put that image in the heart and mind of man. This means a fruitful condition will begin to erupt upon the planetary body. Why do I use this term erupt? Blessed hearts of light, it is because that which has for so long seemed slow in its manifestation will suddenly actually bloom in the heart and mind as though it were what we call a full-blown condition. It will blossom fully, very quickly, almost overnight in the consciousness of some, and they will suddenly find themselves possessed with this new awareness and an eagerness to enter into the fray and to assist the planetary body in a way they have never before assisted. They will feel, as St. Paul long ago said he felt, they will very gladly spend themselves and all that they are for humanity and the development of the age and the overcoming of the crisis of the present one. Humanity are the only ones who can actually overcome this crisis. Humanity are the only ones who can exhibit the quality. For the gods, though they be much concerned, must still obey and follow after the laws of manifestation. Free will was given to man, and free will he has. Through it he has literally wrecked the planet. Let him now understand the need of reinforcing the bastions of the light, so that those bastions may become, everywhere upon the planetary body, focuses of greater light. And as these focuses expand, can you just see what is happening? Why, people will be drawn to them. They will be magnetized into the light. And eventually we will create an entirely new form of ecology upon earth. It will be a manifestation of such beauty as humanity have never dreamed of. We will be able to create a new concept in living. Humanity will look forward to it, for they will understand that it represents the care and consideration of the great ones. Oh yes, I am quite aware that as I am speaking to you, there are a few in the midst here who would like me to stop. I do not think, beloved hearts of light, and you are all beloved, that I should stop just now, because I believe that there are certain manifestations that must come forth, and the action is not an outer one, but an inner one. And therefore, for the sake of the great light, I will continue for a certain span in order to actually posit in the consciousness of man a realization of the great depth, height, and breadth of his real being. We are interested also in many souls that are not here. They are actually tuning in, as they have called it, with this conference. They come here in thought from many parts of the world, and theirs is one of hope. They hold out what we have termed a cup of hope for the manifestation of the victory of our love. And therefore that love must also be dispensed. We must see to it that throughout the world, throughout the entire planetary body, there is a sense of urgency about the creation of the light in the heart that will also reach out into the world with that compassion which is divinely ordained. For you see, if humanity do not have a sense of destiny about themselves, they have no sense at all. For the outer sense itself can only bring to them those pittances of life which were somewhat described by Mr. Charles Dickens in his writings. Let all understand, then, that a mere worded description of the little things of life is not the intention of God. It is instead to give to humanity the great spiritual heritage that is their portion, and thus transcript to them that reality for which their hearts long. Some of you have made a more than ordinary effort to actually try to develop those qualities in your heart that you have longed for. Others have been content to coast downhill, and some do not even recognize the hill. Therefore, they actually glide along the plane or sit right where they are, as the case may be, making little effort on their own behalf to expand their consciousness. We want to develop a sense of the hastening ones in man, so that he will recognize the actual potential of himself and thus bear greater fruit. After all, who is the body of God upon earth? The body of God upon earth is those individuals who recognize that they are a part of God, a part of his reality, that there is a need to actually serve with hierarchy, a need to serve with the forces of light, a need to gather power when all seems to be lost. You are living now in an age when darkness is many places upon the planetary body. It is also a mockery where humanity are casting down their rods as the magicians did at Pharaoh's court. Let all then understand that humanity may say, this and that is good, and this and that is evil. This is a duality of consciousness. It is not our desire to create in the human consciousness a feeling that this and that is good. We want instead to create only the consciousness of good without the realization of evil. Yet evil itself is a product of the human environment. It is spawned and developed by man. It has a transitory lifespan. It will vanish in the light of pure reason, pure truth, and harmony. Do you see that, beloved ones? All darkness, all conditions you resent, must themselves yield to the light of the presence, to the light of the sanity, to the light of the honor, to the light of the God-self, when it is called forth and not dampened or extinguished. We have today upon the planetary body some who have lampooned the Holy Spirit in its very ramifications. For the Holy Spirit has sought to actually develop the quality in man of God realization. It has sought to create a condition resembling the wise virgins who have trimmed their lamps and prepared for the coming of the bridegroom. Now we are concerned that humanity should understand that the oil in the human lamps is a requirement of every hour. From a spiritual standpoint, individuals are the only ones who can buy the oil. Individuals are the only ones who can put upon themselves the garment of the Lord. When humanity understand that and reach out for it, their expression becomes one of asking, and they shall receive, of reaching forth, and they shall be fed, of recognizing, and they shall see. Humanity then will become different, and the passions of the Lord will also become the passions of man. They will no longer be a manifestation of the vicissitudes of man, of the vicissitudes of darkness. They will instead be structured according to the great light. Like rings on trees, man has wielded a power of evil, a duality of consciousness. Now we will bring all to a realization of the God flame upon this earth. And the God flame is the flame of perfection. Here upon Venus, our planetary home, we are able to radiate into the force field of another at will, the great God flame. Upon your planetary body, the quality of free will sometimes interferes with the manifestation of that flame, and various masters have from time to time withdrawn from mankind's consciousness. Do you understand? Now we are entering into a pact with those who choose to observe that pact. And we shall see in 24 months what the fruit of that pact will be. Humanity are being given a new opportunity of assistance, of acceleration, of cooperation with the hierarchy in the coming age. Let then humanity understand. Let the heart rejoice, and let all be glad. And I shall continue to speak to you throughout the night. I shall continue to speak to you, and it shall not be by worded expression of necessity. I may speak in symbols. I may speak in worded expression. I may speak to you in dreams. I may speak to you in visions. I may speak to you in divers ways. For mine is the privilege, and yours is the privilege to receive. I will speak to none who resist me. I will only speak to those who are receptive to me. For this is my will, that I be welcomed. I have returned to the earth. I have momentarily strengthened the bond between your sister planet, Hesper, and Earth herself. I come from Venus, and I manifest the quality of our planet here, that men, living men, may become more than men. This is our wish. This is our design. This is our reality. I thank you.